Hello everyone and welcome to Veterans in Crisis podcast. Today we have Janice Chandler. Janice is from a service called NECA and I'll let her describe what goes on, but she is on today about her gambling service development job. Hiya Janice.
Hello, you all right?
I'm all right, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So I asked you to come on because we had a meeting the other day and it of the gambling services just new, isn't it, the NECA?
They've actually worked with GamCare for over 20 years, but there's been...
Shows you how much I listen then, doesn't it?
But the current work is very much in development. That's why I'm working as part of that, to get people to know that the service is out there. Gambling's such a huge but almost hidden problem. Quite a bit of stigma around it for people, I think, nervous about coming forward. But it has massive impacts on individuals and families. And so that's the work that NECA's doing at the moment, jointly, as I say, nationally with GamCare.
Well, me personally, I don't gamble like at all. Nothing, tell a lie. I might buy a scratch card or one time put the lottery on, something like that. But
yeah,
if I won 20 quid, I wouldn't dream of putting 20 quid on a bet. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I haven't got that thing, and which I'm glad, because I've had plenty of other vices in my life, with drugs and alcohol. So I'm glad that I missed out that one. My dad, funnily enough, the building that we own now, the ERV, is in the old miners' hall. And my dad was a miner, and my dad brought us down from work one day and showed us the building, and he was like, people come in here on a Friday or Thursday when they get paid, and they waste all the money gambling, playing something called bluff or something, or some kind of card game, brag, it was. And that stuck in my mind. I always thought, like, what's going on to work all week and losing your money in a couple of hours? Just. But everyone, an addiction is an addiction, isn't it? Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes, of course, and the same principles apply to any addiction. It's the fact that you're doing something that you actually know is going to create a problem for yourself, but you just can't stop doing it. As well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's what you say about your dad. I think the whole thing around gambling is that the profile of gambling has very much changed, so that it's not now going into the bookies physically and putting £20 on the counter to bet on a horse. It's all the online stuff that causes so many problems for people. Things like, online shopping, if you just take that as an example, it's really easy to buy something online and you don't actually feel necessarily that you're handing over that money. Now, if you put the same principles to gambling, you can just keep doubling your bet, you can be increasing what you're doing, and it's not until you look and you think, I've lost everything here. Because it doesn't feel as real, I think.
Yeah, with the online shopping, and I think it's funny, like, because it was my money anyway, but I buy Adidas trainers, and in the first lockdown, I bought 23 pairs of Adidas trainers just in the first lockdown, because there wasn't
do you want to talk about that?
There wasn't anything else to do. Honestly, there was nothing to do, because like I was coming to work, but then when my family weren't living there because they had to isolate, so I was leaving here and I was going home, and about 5 o'clock after I'd been for a run, I'd basically lock the front door till 8 o'clock the next morning. So me like passion is trainers, and then I would just keep buying it, and it just, when it got to the end of the first lockdown, I had 23 pair. I mean, don't get us wrong, I've bought probably another 20 pairs since then, But I've written.
Do you want to have a chat about that? I know,
because I really like it, and because I used to spend money on drugs, and I had nothing to show for it. I've actually got something to show for. I look at them every morning, pick which ones I want to wear, and I realise that foolishly I buy stuff too much. I don't need that many pair of trainers, and there'll be 20 pairs I haven't even opened yet. The problem is, right, and which I assume what gambling's like. I see a pair of trainers, and trainer companies are a bit like drug dealers. They'll constantly bombard us with, look at these on your phone.
Yes.
I buy email. So then I'll be all excited, and then I'll buy them, and then I'll say, I'm not buying any more trainers. And before they've even come, I'm looking for trainers on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's, I assume.
You can see this. Yeah, you can see the similarities in it, certainly. Certainly.
Well, at least I've got trainers at the end of it,
Yes, that's the difference.
Always going to be dry. My feet's always going to be dry.
And you'll always be able to run. I don't know how far you'd have to run to use all those.
Well, bizarrely, so I don't own any shoes, right? But I own.
Right.
Right. This is another funny thing. I've never counted how many pairs of trainers I've got because I think that's a little bit mental. Knowing how many pairs of trainers I've got. But none of me Adidas trainers I wear for sport or anything. They're just to wear normal, like or whatever. So I have to buy. I've got ASIC trainers for running and for the gym because I couldn't handle the thought of the trainers getting dirty or sweaty or anything.
Right. It's interesting you say it's mad to count the number of pairs. I've got 28 pairs of Dr. Martens.
See that?
And I know now.
Do you want to talk about it?
I now know I need another 2 pair because 30 is like a nice round number.
It's just round, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you get to 30, you'll need 40 then, though.
Exactly.
At all jokes aside, that is my treat to myself, you know.
Yes.
I work hard, and I think where it went a bit mental, it was when my daughter was born, and I've got every pair since she was born. I bought 2 pair for every half size, so all the way through her life she's had 2 pair because then she could wear one to play in, and then one for best for every half size. I know it sounds bad when you say it out loud, but I've got them now. But I picked the first ones.
Oh, lovely.
Right.
Really
Anyway, let's talk about gambling instead of training. I'm starting to think about going on the internet. Tell us about this service.
Yes, gambling, obviously, as we're talking, can just have an absolutely devastating effect on the individuals concerned, but also on the people around them. It affects so many people. I mean, I know of somebody who remortgaged the house but didn't tell his partner, and his partner only found out once the house was repossessed. Now, terrifying. That's just terrifying. I was talking to somebody else who earned his money in pretty dodgy ways. It wasn't all legitimate, but he had a load of money. He lost £60,000 in an hour at the casino in Newcastle.
£60,000 in an hour.
£60,000 in an hour. And what he said was, I mean, he was drug dealing, he was money laundering. So he said it didn't really bother him that much at the time because he thought, I've got loads more money. I've got this other money coming in. But if you think of it, like your face there, when you're thinking £60,000 in an hour,
it's just gone. It's just mental and unbelievable, isn't it? The 60 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had 60 grand to spend, how much more do you want?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what's got me there. If you've got £60,000 to spend, why do you need any more money to spend?
Yes. What he's actually done was he'd sold a cottage. He'd sold a house and he got £60,000 in cash for it. And he just went and spent it in the casino. Every penny of it.
I've been to a casino once, right? I always wanted to go, but my partner had worked in the casino, so we couldn't go until there was a new casino. And I was like, definitely, I want to go. I've always wanted to go. And it was my birthday. I went. I lost 20 quid straight away, and I was like, I'm not taking that. Like, that's shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So luckily, I left straight away because I don't even understand how people would chase all the time.
But that's exactly it. It's chasing. You could tip that on the head and say, right, you've lost 20 quid. But if I put another £5 on, I might get that back. So then you're constantly trying to chase that loss. And nobody wins. You know, certainly the individuals that spend all the money.
They win, don't they? Yeah. And there wouldn't be bookies if they didn't.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Of course, yeah.
And I tell you what I always find as well, that do you know, like, I mean, I think there's been a clampdown on them now, but you know them machines that you can, like, put loads of money in? They're always in poor areas.
Yes.
Aren't they? So poor people who've got no money have got this thing where they can make loads of money by going spending a little bit of money they've got on there.
Yeah.
And you'll find the same, like, with takeaways and you know, unhealthy things are in poor areas.
Yeah, definitely. In a previous life, I worked in public health, and if you look at things like smoking, obesity, I think I've just read something on the news that lung cancer rates are twice, caused through smoking, are twice the level in poor communities than there are in richer communities. And I mean, it has much more of an impact. People are more desperate, people are more stressed, people are more worried. People can't afford healthy food. So it's easier to buy a lasagna the size of your table from Iceland for £2 to feed your family than it is to buy fresh fruit and veg, because it's more expensive. And it's just that. So yeah, you're exactly right. It does have a huge, much more significant impact on poorer communities.
I did this training before, and the figures might be wrong, but it's roundabout. From the richest part of Sunderland to the poorest part, there was something like 16 years different in life expectancy.
Oh, yeah. If you look at,
that's just mad, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I used to work in South Tyneside, and you would talk about metro stops. So you'd look at Brockley Winds, which is one of the poor areas around Borden Colliery, and then look at one of your richer areas. And I think there was a 12-year difference in life expectancy if you lived near either of those metro stops. Terrible.
It's mind blowing, isn't it? It's mind blowing that can happen this day and age. Absolutely mind blowing. Yeah. But anyway.
Oh yes, right.
Once again, back to gambling.
Right, the NECA services, there's 2 ways of accessing them, and they're there for anybody that's either got a problem themselves or anybody that has a problem created by somebody else's gambling. So there's almost 2 strands to the service. So we work with individuals to support them to get their gambling back under control, or to stop gambling altogether, whichever they think they can manage. And then with family and friends who are impacted. We also do work with organisations to raise their awareness of gambling and support staff to get training and awareness so they can then deal with clients, so they can refer in. So there's almost 2 strands to the work that's done. Individual. Go on, what were you?
I was just going to say
individual.
Go on.
Individuals can apply, can refer themselves. I'll give the telephone numbers out at the end, but there's a local number which is actually based in Sunderland, but NECA Gambling services cover the whole of the North East, all the way down to Leeds and York. So it's a massive area that they cover. But the admin central hub is actually in Sunderland, in John Street. So you would just ring up, your details would be taken, somebody would get back to you within 24 hours to discuss what is best support that could be given to you to support you to change your gambling habits.
Well, if you after this, if you email us the details, I'll ask Joe from Tile Image to put them along the bottom as we're talking.
Brilliant.
And then people can see them, and then people can ring. I mean, we're going to the staff at Vic's are going to do the gambling training.
Great.
Because I've come across a few veterans who have trouble, and because I've never experienced anything about gambling before, that's sort of a downfall for me. Whereas I've got life experience with drugs and alcohol and violence and stuff, but not the gambling. So I would like an insight into it myself, like.
Oh, the training's great, because I'd never actually worked directly in gambling. I'd worked in addictions for years, but never directly in gambling before I started this job. So obviously did the training straight away, and it's brilliant. It's really, really good. Takes a couple of hours, but really improves your understanding of why people will gamble.
I think we're all going to boot on it. All the staff and volunteers are boot on it.
Great.
So have you, since you have started in Sunderland, have you had much of a take-up?
Yes, we've got good take-up. There's individual work done with people. So once somebody gets in touch, then you assess, or they will be assessed as to what they want to happen. Some people having 2 or 3 sessions with a gambling support worker is sufficient to give them the understanding and knowledge, so they can then start to control their own gambling. Other people, it takes a bit longer, so we run 12-session programs. That would normally be the number of sessions that would be needed, but it's very open-ended around that. And that talks about things like urges, triggers, different things that can be put in place to limit your gambling, like bans on certain websites, financial limits. You can get yourself a ban from your local bookies, for example, and you opt into all that, which puts measures in place to help control. If you're feeling a bit vulnerable, you actually can't do anything because those bans are in place to stop you. So yeah, that's the work. And then also following the one-to-one sessions, there's group work sessions. So there's a relapse prevention group, there's a peer support group, there's a group for individuals who are affected by somebody else's gambling. So all those groups run every week, just to support the whole thing, support the whole system of people.
Can I ask, right? And this is just something I've noticed myself, that normally I would associate gambling with men, right? The bookies, football stuff. But you're constantly bombarded on TV and radio about foxybingo.com or something like that. And it's always like, hey, girls, let's get together and have a chat and basically spend your money, Is that a thing now, is it?
Yes, there's a massive increase in problematic gambling for women. And it's exactly what you've picked up. It's the online bingo. It's the idea that you can be in a room with other women and you can chat. But underneath it all is still, they are there to get you to gamble. That's what they're there for.
I mean, if I've noticed that, surely people must notice. Because isn't it the sponsored TV shows what women watch?
Yes.
And you seem to be bombarded. Well, where male things like sport, football and stuff, they're trying to kind of take gambling advertising away from there. But
they're trying to.
But it doesn't seem like they're doing the same for women. It doesn't seem like they're taking that away. No.
I read something that said if a young person watches a football match, they're actually exposed to, I think it was 720 mentions of gambling. So whether it be the sponsorship on the shirts, because I know Sunderland, their sponsor was Tombola. So it couldn't be put on the kids' shirts. So whether it's the sponsorship on shirts or whether it's the advertising in the stadium, whether it's that bloke off whatever saying when the fun stops, stop, but 720 exposures to gambling. And that's, just in one football match. So you look at the impact it's having on young people as well. And we obviously do work in schools to support young people. But another thing is online games. And I didn't know anything at all about this. But in online games, you can actually spend money to buy things, I think they're called loot boxes. So you would buy it, and in that, you'll either get something good that's useful for you playing the game or something not. But what that actually is you're spending money and gambling that you're going to get something good. And that's in children's games. And it's just introducing that idea.
This is something that I came aware of last year. That I can't remember what it's called, but I think Fortnite, I think it was called.
Right.
And don't sue us, Fortnite, if you're ever watching this, right? Because there's other games that probably do it. However, I was at my friends and we're having a drink and the kids come in and says, can I have whatever it's called for Fortnite? It's only 38 quid. And they said, you can have it once. So they give them 38 quid on the card. And then I was intrigued. So I went and to have a look. And they went, oh, well, you get these new clothes and you get this gun. And I was like, oh, does it get delivered? And they were like, no, it's on the screen. Yeah. So like you don't actually get anything. It's just on the screen and your character or whatever it is gets this for 38 quid.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain them when you would buy your own clothes for 38 quid.
Yes.
See, I'm not computer, even luckily my daughter is not, our family are not into games like that or anything. So but it's surely that's setting them up to be gamblers.
Well, when you buy, because what they're actually doing is they're buying something but not knowing what they're buying. So there's that element of risk and chance in it, and that's just gambling. That's like putting a fiver on a horse. Does it win or not? It's exactly the same.
That's why I was going to say that should be banned, but obviously whoever's in charge has probably got shares in the company, so That's never going to
Probably.
happen, is it?
I think part of it is, as well, is in terms of gambling addiction, where you're almost so far behind in the work that can be done, compared to, for example, drug addiction. And even alcohol addiction to a certain extent. Alcohol addiction, at least, and this is me speaking personally and not from a NECA point of view, I've got to say, when you've got stuff like alcohol services, alcohol producers have a huge interest in people drinking alcohol. And it was the same with tobacco. So a lot of work was sponsored by tobacco companies because they obviously had a massive interest in keeping people smoking. So I know, for example, a tobacco company funded a lot of work in schools. I tell a lie, it was an alcohol company, funded a lot of work in schools, not locally, but on a national level around alcohol. But almost the evidence suggests that teaching kids in schools about alcohol really doesn't impact on their future alcohol use. But this company could hold up a big sign going, aren't we great? We're trying to teach young people. And in fact, it wasn't having that much of an impact, but they could be seen to be doing good. Now, gambling is obviously very involved with gambling services and bookies and Gamcare. I mean, they do put in a lot of money. I have to say, they do put a lot in. So when you see things like when the funds stop, that's funded by bookies and gamblers and gambling services. So the money is coming in, but it's still that, like tobacco companies have now moved to vaping. So they're just investing in vaping, but they want people to vape. Would gamblers or would alcohol companies ever want people to stop using their product? And the answer is no. And it's about managing it. It's about using it safely.
I think as well, governments, because they get so much tax, they're not wanting to stop. They might put things in with tobacco and stuff, but
certainly,
if they wanted it to stop, they've just kept us in the house for ages. You know what I mean? They could stop it if they want. Simple as that. They could stop it if they want. It's just too much money involved. And like I say, they probably own shares in the company. That's what I would say. Like,
yes, yeah.
And
years ago,
so I've never smoked. Other than weed. Right, I've never smoked like cigarettes or anything. And I just can't see what's good about smoking. The smell, the amount of costs. I mean, I have clients and they've got no money, and then they're paying £10 for a packet of fags.
Yeah. It's scary, and that's what addiction does.
It is. It's terrible. Terrible. And
it's terrifying.
I've had a few of them on the smoking cessation thing, where to stop. And then the worst part about the first lockdown is a few of them had stopped completely, and because of lockdown, that gave them an excuse to start again. I would say, I might as well, because I've got nothing else to do. I'm stuck in the house.
And as well, I think the lockdown put a lot of people under a huge amount of stress and pressure. With the gambling thing, you've got people who are having so much time on their hands. The lockdown worked perfectly for some. For those whose gambling problem was by going into bookies, or was by horse racing, or football betting, when all that stopped, that was brilliant for them because they didn't have the opportunity. But some of them will have moved to more online booking, like casinos and stuff, online casinos. But for some, it was great. And their worry was actually what happens when this all starts reopening. How do I still keep controlling what I've been doing? But the online stuff terrifies me, to be honest.
I know a lot of people that totally stopped taking drugs because of the lockdown, because they weren't going out. So to the pub, for instance, so they didn't have that temptation. And they weren't, they're obviously not addicted, so they didn't need it. But the temptation when you're out to have it, so they were just in, so they just stopped. Which worked in their favour, but like you say, the worrying part about that is when things open up and you start again, the temptation's going to be there again.
Yes, and it's interesting when you mentioned pubs. People addicted to slot machines in pubs. You can sit in any pub and you can watch people just putting in £20 note after £20 note, and they never walk away with a pile of money.
Somebody do that on Friday. I'm talking hundreds of pounds. So I went for a drink on Friday after work, and I seen that myself. And because of the work I do now, you pick up on stuff like that, you know.
Yes.
And when it wasn't a friend or anything, I just noticed constantly going, get change from the bar, or 20 quid notes, and it was crazy. Like, I'm just glad I'm not involved in that. Stick with me trainers.
I mean, exactly. You stick with your trainers, I'll stick with me Dr. Martens.
Right. Thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything you want to get out before we finish?
No, it's fine. I'll send you the well, I think I've sent you posters before. I don't know if you want anything more than that.
Just send us the phone number details, or something, or any kind of link we can put on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. I'll send that.
Also, thank NECA, because it was NECA that stopped me smoking weed 12 years ago.
Oh, right. Lovely.
12 years ago. So
through a success story. And look where you've gone. Yeah.
It's been the best thing that ever happened to me, stopping smoking weed. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I absolutely loved smoking weed. Didn't find a problem till I stopped smoking, and it's been brilliant. So thank you very much.
Excellent.
All right.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Cheers now.
Right. Lovely seeing you. Right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.